Before we do that, can you just give me your name, your title, and your seat number?
Seat number.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Delila Kidanu. I'm the COO at Koa,
Mhm.
and I'm sitting on 17B.
17B. And what movie were you watching when we interrupted you?
Shang-Li, what is it called? Shang-Li something, the Marvel one.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
How is it?
It's good.
Yeah.
Really good. It's just getting to the apex of the movie. Just when they're about to have that
when we
epic fight
interrupted
scene.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So the thing that Alexi and I just talked about, and I'd be interested in your perspective as well, is like just the role that savings play in a market like Kenya. And I told him, like, I'm becoming particularly interested in this question of like, well, what happens if you just try to continually avail credit and lending opportunities in an environment where just people don't have a lot of money, right? And should we be thinking about other financial services products that are income generating? And so I'd love to get your perspective on, now obviously that you're, a year plus into the Koa journey, but then also sort of at the beginning, like, were there any sort of, intuitive things that you saw or were interested in exploring that compelled you guys to look at savings in particular?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, savings has always been the core when it comes to finance. Why that is, like, my family comes from quite a traditional background. My mom, my grandma all run kind of circles of savings. So they save with like their friends, their neighbors, and they have these circles. And so I always grew up looking at that. So for me, when I think of finance, when I think of banking or anything, it really starts at savings. Savings is for me the core of anything that you can do, because it allows you to create those deposits and have like a bulk of money that you can actually do something with. I think you can only build financial products on top of savings. So I think when we were looking at Koa, we looked at, what the market dynamics were. And I think back then, about 2 years ago, Kenya, it was kind of very credit heavy, right? Like, you had a lot of players coming in, you had a lot of startups that were offering very cheap credit, and it was very easy to access any loans at any time. And I think what COVID really showed us is that having access to credit doesn't necessarily make you financially resilient. It doesn't make you financially literate. It just means that if you need money because you made a bad decision, that it's very easy to access. So we really wanted to take a different approach, albeit some people might think that it's a much tougher approach or a longer approach. But the truth is that if you can get your fundamentals of finance correct, then you can have people who walk the journey with you for a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And so that's really what we're trying to build. We really think of Koa as that foundation.
Yeah. And so are you seeing anything particularly interesting, from a consumer behavior perspective, or, just the response of your customers to the product, and knowing, again, in an environment where, there was, and to some degree still is, opportunities to get, cash instantly, but, the default rates are high. Like, what are you seeing? Obviously overcoming that challenge as well. What sorts of things from a customer and user perspective do you find interesting?
I think there's a few interesting things that we've seen, especially with the customers. We see that savings is almost synonymous with lending nowadays, or especially in the Kenyan market. So you definitely see that, okay, although we only speak about savings on all of our channels, people automatically assume that lending is also kind of prevalent as well. So that was kind of an interesting thing that we saw. I think what was very eye-opening is that a lot of the young people that we're bringing onto Koa today and who are using Koa and finding the use case are also bringing on their families and their informal chamas, right? So you have like these informal saving groups, and they are the trusted, treasurer or the manager of that group. And so they want to bring those groups into Koa to be able to manage them and have that visibility. So I think an assumption we had when we first started was that people want to have that transparency, especially when it comes to their accounts. When you look at like bank accounts, or you look at any type of investment account, it's a bit difficult to get your your transaction history, your information. It takes time and a bit of effort. And so we tried to make that as transparent as possible. And I think that's really taken us far in terms of building trust with the consumers or the users who are on the app today.
Yeah. And there's a number of, initiatives around the continent to, quote unquote, digitize the informal savings groups, or whether they're chamas or, in South Africa, stokvels or whatever, the name is. Was it an explicit objective or goal of yours to try to tap into those communities, or did it end up being like just a byproduct of, speaking to people who participated in that, in those sorts of groups, who realized and saw the value in the product and decided that they wanted to then take it to their communities themselves?
I think we were very inspired by those groups. A lot of the pillars that we built Koa on, trust, community, transparency, all of these things are learned behavior from those groups, the savings groups. So I wouldn't say that they were our initial target, but we really wanted to emulate that feel, that experience for the people who are going to be like using Koa. And I think now, as we've built that out and we've seen how people are using it, it now goes hand in hand, right? So people who are a bit younger, who are not necessarily looking really to go into a more traditional sako or a chama, and are looking mainly to, deal with their finances, save with their groups. Now Koa is offering them that kind of the next level of that. Anytime, anywhere, they can access their information. And I think that's really become like that selling point for this newer generation that's trying to get their financial kind of situation in order.
So does your mom use Koa now?
My mom's based in Sweden, so not yet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. So, not yet, but soon, hopefully.
Okay. You're going to expand to Sweden?
Maybe.
So then, what else? Is there anything else you're thinking about in particular as you walk this journey and build the business? Like, what's top of mind for you, or what have you been trying to focus your attention and mind share on these days?
Yeah, I think that in a market like Kenya, top of mind is always, how do you tap into the flow of cash? Like, how do you tap into people's daily spending? How do you make sure that you can build that behavior? So a lot of what we've been trying to do in the last couple of months is understand people's behavior and understand how we can build a savings culture into that behavior. I think for me, what's been very interesting is really taking on that women in business lens. So in Kenya, you see that the biggest savers in the country are actually women, and they have large deposits, and they save in groups, and they invest, and they really, plan their financial futures. And so for me, it's been, okay, how can we really support these groups and go like the step further in their journey? And so there's a couple of partners that we're working with. We've also partnered with the Octopiso Foundation as well, to be able to work in more rural areas that, someone like me who's Ethiopian and not necessarily well versed in Swahili can really go in and learn and understand how we can really solve the financial kind of access for these women.
And so just back to what you said just a little bit at the beginning in terms of understanding like where savings fits into and cash flows fits into like the daily lives of your users. Is there anything particularly interesting that you've found or learned as you've tried to understand that better?
I think it's very interesting when you speak to a lot of users, and two things come out. One is that they want you to help them fight against their own natural behavior. So on a Friday night, they want to go out and have a drink, but they're like, no, just lock my money. Don't let me make this decision. Like, keep it away from me. And I think that's been very interesting. And we definitely want to see like how we can offer more products around that as well. And then I think it's also just that the kind of the behavior that young people have. So we've been speaking a lot to university students or early career kind of individuals, and they just are really hungry for information, but they don't know where to go, right? So we're trying to build in that behavior of, okay, in the morning when I'm reading, I'm here to like look for something that's very clear, easy, and simple to go through, and that really gives me an insight into how I should be behaving like with my money. But I think it's a tough one because money is so personal. I think it's one of the most personal things that you own, and so putting any distance between a person and their money is always tough. But I think it's just a learning and understanding people's behavior, and with that we'll grow in time.
Nice. Anything else you want to talk about?
No.
We
How's
can
the
leave it
flight
there.
going?
Yeah, it's okay.
Good.
I'm good. Watched a movie, ate some food. Alexi told me that I shouldn't have eaten because it's apparently bad to eat on the flight.
It's bad for you. Have
That's
you
what
had
he's-
water?
So I had drank this water. Yeah, but then I was saying, like, look at the size of these. These are so small.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at this.
Flight hack. You should go to the stewardess and say you have medicine to take, and she'll give you a liter bottle.
Really?
Yeah, I have a liter bottle of water.
This is 150
I know.
milliliters.
You're not gonna get hydrated from that.
Okay, I need to get some water.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.